Hey, Flowmies, it's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. So this week we have Valentine. He's the owner of Aeria Pro. And he's, as you know, if you know the company, you know they're super innovative with window cleaning products, especially with Battle Cat, Tiger Fence, those types of things. We'll talk a little bit about that. But really, this podcast is going to be all about dealing with pressure and with anxiety of running a business. We're going to talk about some of the things that he's done, some of the things that he's had in the past that kind of helps him to deal with the anxiety of running a business now, and just different things about how important it is to talk to other people, especially as business owners in an industry where we have a tendency to kind of keep things to ourselves, how talking about the stresses and anxieties of business can actually help us to become better business owners. So it's a really great interview. I think you're going to enjoy it, and certainly many of us need it. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks. And now we'll give your attention to Ray. All right, Flowmies. Well, we're here talking with Valentine of Aeria Pro. Thank you so much for making the time to talk with us, bud. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Gabe. I'm glad that you guys invited me onto the podcast. So it's kind of fun. It's it's been a busy week. It's a Friday, so it's kind of nice to wind down with a conversation with Gabe. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. We're going to talk all about Aeria Pro. I do want to find out how you got involved, and we're also going to hit upon some just things I think that you had mentioned were really important to you about just having the right mental state for business. And I think we got some good topics to talk on. But first of all, I just wanted to get to know you a little better. How did you, I know you have a background in window cleaning, but how did you get into the manufacturing and selling of products as a vendor with Aeria Pro?
Well, I mean, it goes back to being a window cleaner. So, I've been a window cleaner for 10 years now, which is a baby in a lot of guys' eyes, but, that's longevity. I've been in the business, and it's just tinkering with tools and toys. And just kind of, thinking, I can probably do something better. Let me go back to my shop and see what I can't work on. And then that just kind of snowballed, and just started, thinking about what this can be a real business too.
Sure.
So, it's a little bit of, DIY kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a lot of, I'm not a tinkerer myself. I mean, I'm like more of a fixer. So like if I got a product, I'll work on it, but I'll just get it to where it works to what I like, right? And then I'm not interested in telling other people or selling a product or changing a product. And I do know also tinkers who do like to design stuff, but they've never taken it to the level where, okay, now I'm going to actually sell this product. Right. So what kind of got you to where you're like, okay, I've made some designs. Now I'm actually think I have enough kind of info where I can actually take this to market and sell it to window cleaners.
So I guess we have to back up to, what I was doing before I was a window cleaner.
Okay, good.
So I'll talk about how I got into window cleaning, and then how that kind of morphed into what I have going on now, which is still window cleaning, by the way. Mm-hmm. So I'm an artist. So I paint and I do sculptural work. Let me think. I've been creating some form of media all my whole life, but I got really serious into art probably back in 2006 or 7. And even before that, I worked for a sculpting company. We made outdoor art. So we made like concrete statues, and we did like custom, like 8-foot tall St. Francis statues. Wow. So I really learned about, how to make something from scratch and how to work with your hands and tools and kind of conceptualize something, in your head and bring it to reality. So I learned that, and then probably around 2010, I started working on starting a art gallery. So I was, I was very interested in the process of curating art shows and putting together shows for other artists. So I was like, I can probably do this as my own, space. Yes. So I got together with a partner, and he was an anthropologist in Afghanistan. So he would go down there, he worked with the US military, and he probably kind of be like the liaison between the community and the US government, and kind of like help them navigate the waters, because he knew the area. He was there for so long studying. But before the war, he invested in a bunch of Oriental carpets, a bunch of handmade carpets from Afghanistan. So we partnered together, And I was selling his carpets. He was out of his country. We had a space. I was selling art, my artwork and other artists' work. And so I did that for a number of years. And then, it's really hard to start a business, a brick and mortar business, without a lot of capital or a lot of a really good product. So art is not, it's a really hard product to sell.
Yes.
So for us to keep afloat, we had to, have music events, sell jewelry, all the little stuff to keep going. And I talked to a bunch of art gallery friends I knew, and I'm talking to guys that have been doing it for 10 years, and they're finally at the point now where they're making money. I'm like, I can't go 10 years like this. There's no way I can't do this. So we had this guy, a Bucket Bob, that was coming to the shop all the time doing our windows. And I mean, I think there was some mental issues there. He wasn't, the most quality person, but he had a great work ethic. He would come by like every other week and do our windows. But he came by with a squeegee, not a squeegee. He came out with a squeegee, on a wooden broom stick, and that's what all it was. And I was like, my windows look horrible. I'm like, I can do a way better job than this. Why am I paying like $14 or something like that? Why am I paying this guy? Because I felt bad for him because, there was some issues there, right? So eventually I was like, no, I stopped the services and I started doing it myself. And then I'm thinking to myself, hold on, he does these people. He's in a neighborhood for about an hour. I'm like, this dude's making money, right? And all he has is this little stinking bucket, not even a bucket, Windex, spraying the Windex and then squeegeeing. Just, it looks terrible, but people felt bad for him and they kept on his services. But I'm like, I can do a great job and make that kind of money. So with the art gallery, it was open. We opened around like noon. So I figured I have all this time in the morning just to hustle. So we had a bucket, we had, a squeegee and a pole for the shop. And I was like, let's just go out, start hustling. I started hustling, and, it started doing better than the art gallery. And then our lease was up, and we started going month to month. And I'm like, no, you know what? They were like, you got to re-sign a lease. You can't keep going month to month. So I said, okay, well, let's just stop this and we'll just do window cleaning. So that's what I did. So and in the process of that, I started playing with tools and started learning stuff on videos, like watching, Luke the window cleaner and other guys. That was like 10 years ago. So there wasn't a lot, but there was some stuff out there. Seeing videos, guys, dog earring.
Dog earring. Yep. That's what I do. Yeah.
I still do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just started playing with ideas, and I would just go back to my art studio, which is a sculptural studio, and I would just start fabricating art, tearing things apart, and then just iterating and seeing what works. So that was kind of, I had the background in as a maker, and then that kind of helped me take those window cleaning ideas.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you said you were an artist, I said, okay, that's the answer. That's it.
Right.
Because you're not afraid to create, and you're not afraid to explore different things and try this here, try this there. See, I'm too much of a perfectionist for that, because I would get caught up in all the details, and I would get caught up, and then I'd give up because it wasn't exactly what I wanted in my head. And as an artist, you live for that journey of kind of going through that, so I totally get that. Yeah.
Awesome. That was in a nutshell.
So when did you start Aeria Pro then? What year?
2019.
Yeah, so it's brand new.
Yeah,
I cannot believe how fast you guys have grown and just your products. What do you credit to that? Because I mean, you just kind of came on. I remember seeing the was it the tiger fins? Right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, and I love them. I have them on my poles. I love and I just thought, man, this is such an innovator, and I don't see it anywhere. I remember searching for it, and I couldn't find it. It wasn't popping up on Google, and I think I asked Kevin Hargis. He's the one who pointed me to where you're at, and I was like, oh, there they are, finally, and I got them, and that's why I think I really appreciate about your company was because there's all kinds of vendors, of course, and they're all great. I mean, there's certain things I like about all of them. But you go to your shop and it is so different. You find stuff you won't find anywhere else there.
Oh, cool.
So like, how did that formula start to falling into place there?
That's, well, back to the leading question was, it started in 2019 and it seemed like you'd done so much in that short period of time. I don't feel that way. I feel like it's probably the opposite because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, like you said you are. And, I have big visions, and then sometimes you can't always accomplish those big visions in a condensed amount of time. But a lot of it, I would say, is naivete. So, really naive about, what it takes to start a manufacturing company and what it takes to bring a product to market. I was really naive about it. But I spent like 2 years just studying, learning about patents, learning about manufacturing processes, and everything. So I think it was 2 years before we actually started.
Gotcha.
Where I was finding partners and also that kind of stuff. And then it's just been a slow burn. I mean, we put out, I think we have about 5 or 6 products now. And I mean, if it was a perfect world, I can have like 15, 20 products tomorrow, just because there's so many that I could make, but we couldn't produce them fast enough, or we couldn't make it happen.
Right.
So I think that, I think that, with that said, it's been a tough journey going from idea to a tested product, to the design to manufacturing process. It's a big journey. And I kind of equate a lot of it to like window cleaning. So like right now with Aeria Pro, I'm kind of at the stage where a lot of window cleaners find themselves, where they're spending too much time in the business and not on the business, right? So there's a point where if you want to stay on the glass forever, you can stay on the glass forever. There's nothing wrong with that, But if you want to go on to the next level and you want to start, building crews, getting more guys, all that kind of stuff, at some point you got to start phasing yourself off the glass and building that back in. So I'm kind of at that point now where I'm trying to get out of the day-to-day manufacturing side and do just more building. But it's a process. So it's the same thing. Like, I know you guys have your company, you run how many trucks are you guys running now?
We've got 4 trucks right now. Yeah.
4 trucks. So that was probably a journey for you from, coming off the glass to getting guys, training guys.
Well, and I'm still on the glass. I during the COVID, when COVID hit, of course I had to lay people off. So I worked more, and then we got the PPP. So then I hired them back, and then I just really tried to give them the work, and I tried to work on the business, which really helped. And ever since then, I've been kind of up and down. So sometimes I'm like hardly work at all.
Yeah.
And then like we started our busy season. So like the last 2 weeks, I mean, I worked 3 13-hour days in a row,
Really?
And I'm just like, okay, I'm not old, but my body let me know that I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Yes.
But I had to. We had people out. I mean, we had things, come up. Again, our busy season, when it hits, like it drops.
Yeah. And where in Arizona are you at?
I'm in Tucson, Southern Arizona. Yeah.
Tucson.
Yeah. So I hired a guy, and we got another guy coming back who was off for 2 weeks. So I think starting next week, it should settle down. I told the office, look, I don't want to work no more than 2 or 3 days a week on, right now, but hopefully starting next year, I'll be off. That's the goal anyways, where I'm not working, except for, on big projects, I like to be on site, whether I'm working or just overseeing, just because I want to make sure it's done. But the majority, it definitely is to be, working on the business, like you said.
Right. So like for my window cleaning business, I downsized my business to do Aeria Pro. Right. So I said, okay, I wasn't really running crews. I was hiring seasonal people, what I was doing. Right. Had my son work with me, had another lady working with me. It was pretty seasonal. And the vision really was to grow that window cleaning business large and, to have trucks running and all that kind of stuff. And then I got obsessed with tools, and I just like, you know what? No, let's do this instead. So I kind of, downsized that. And so now I'm kind of in between both worlds. So now I'm probably cleaning windows like 3 days a week and doing Aeria Pro every other minute of the day. So, whether I'm in the shop working on stuff or working on, a new idea or a customer or delivering stuff. And we're a small team. So it's me, I have 2 partners, and my son that helps out when he can.
Nice.
And we're in the process now of going into a larger facility, which will give us more square footage for production, and we'll have a media room. We'll have a showroom, which is going to be awesome. And then once that happens, we'll start bringing on some more part-timers and some more production crew. But so I'm kind of in that in between weird space that, you probably find yourself.
Well, it's a lot of discovery, like you said. It's a lot of trial and error. Honestly, my wife and I were just talking about streamlining, maybe going down to 3 trucks. We had kind of a little experiment these last couple of weeks, like I said, because we were running a skeleton crew. We were short. We had one guy who we were a longtime employee we were expecting to come back. He decided not to. He's going to start his own thing, which, we were so happy for him because he's such a good guy. And, we're just glad for his success. But that left a big gap, and we're like, oh man. So, we were running a skeleton crew for probably about 3 weeks. This is the end of the 3 weeks. But, profit wise, we did pretty good because our payroll was so low. Right. And so I was talking, and my wife and I were just talking like, man, at this point, we're going to keep the 4 till the end of the busy season because we got the work. The work's there. We got it. But once the end, I think we're going to go down to 3 crews. We're going to drop a truck. And because I would be in the other truck, if I'm off the glass, then there's no need for me to be on it. And then we're just going to run, just try to keep that payroll as minimum as possible. And we're going to try and experiment with that. Because, like you said, it's about finding that sweet spot, where
what works best for you.
What works best for the company. So we're not, because, I've been in that trap before where you're chasing the work, just because you got work doesn't mean you got to take every job that comes, and coming from where I was just me and you're starving and you're just trying to grab at every job. It's hard to ditch that mentality and say, no, you can be picky. You can make sure, every job that it's meeting your standards as to what you need for profitability.
That's what I started to do is just like, I just got rid of a lot of junk, especially, for a while there I was doing a lot of route work. And, in my area, route work can be very competitive. And then before you know, you're undercutting yourself and you're just trying to compete. And then you're trying to like build all this just really tight route. And then you got guys taking, and you're like, and it was, I mean, I've guys who do it and do it well. I give my hats off to because I have a hard time.
Yeah. Well, and route work can be profitable, but there's so many factors. Like you said, one is market. If you've got a bunch of bucket bobs and they're in there for, and they're doing a job that you would bid at $30 and they're doing it for 10, right. And that's what happened with me. When I was by myself, I had a pretty sizable commercial route. So it was like 2 days commercial, 3 days residential. And I had all of these long time customers. And of course I hadn't raised any prices. Right. And so when I started growing, I hired to do those routes. And then one day I did the route. And I started realizing, I'm like, because once you spend the most of the time in residential, your numbers change. And then you go back to commercial. And I remember, I don't know if someone was sick or what, but I ran the route and I was like, oh my goodness, I just drove 15 minutes to come to this little store, this shop, clean windows for $15. And then I drove another 15 minutes. I made $15 an hour. I could go work at Burger King and make that, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And once that hit me, like what you said, I cleared out probably about 3/4 of my route work and I gave it to other friends of mine who were, smaller, had just started up their business. It's perfect for them. Right. It gives them practice. They've got, work they can count on. And then I just kept the ones that I liked that were paying me what I wanted, that were in an efficient route. And now that's what I have, so.
Yeah, because I was going up like 45 minutes north of me to do some route work, and I did the same thing. I'm like, hold on, 45 minutes out, the gas, and then now, and it was a weird area because like it was like if I didn't do the right day, some places would be closed, some places would be open, or there are restaurants at different timings. So it was a scheduling nightmare, and it wasn't worth it. I says, no, we're done. I'm sorry, guys. Right. I can refer you to somebody, and that's it. And then, when I got rid of a lot of the route work, now, I don't really do a lot of, I have some restaurants, I have a couple of like salons that I do, and just a couple of like mom and pops that I've been with for a while, and they pay me well and they're good people. And they're close to me, so it's convenient.
Exactly.
So right now it's mainly, residential work, which I prefer doing anyhow. I like to be on a property for, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever that job determines. and I have to worry about having to go to 100 places in a day.
Exactly.
But that's just my preference. It's funny, like we have fish is a pretty big competitor in my area, and it wasn't always that way. We had a bunch of fish owners rotate in and rotate out. And I met with a local fish guy when I was going to sell some of my route work. So I was thinking about selling to them. Really great guy. I wound up not doing that. I wound up just giving some stuff away and then just letting a bunch of stuff go. They did something really interesting is they really raised their prices. Before they were really in my area, really known for lowballing. And then now they really raised their prices, and it kind of made a new standard. I'm like impressed. So like I don't go looking for route work anymore or commercial work. And I get people referred to me or come to me that might see me or something like that. And they're telling me the prices that fish is quoting. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I never thought I would hear that. But it's kind of a new standard in the area where there's not the bucket bobs have kind of been like, even though they're undercutting, people are seeing it as low quality. It's not the kind of person they want. So it's been kind of interesting to see that dynamic.
Well, and I literally just had this conversation with my office staff, because what had happened was they had booked an estimate for a small commercial. It was about $40, what we would have bid $40 for, and they bid an estimate for two guys who are doing residential that day, but it was in the area, so they were going to drive, stop and do the bid and then take off. And I said, okay, you guys, look, first of all, I forget who it was, I was just having the conversation, but they said, don't chase don't jump over pennies to chase, jump over dollars to chase pennies. Right. And I said, so this job is $40. I can look at it and Google Earth it, and I could see the windows and I could get a price. Why are we going to pay guys to drive over, two guys, who are making $20 an hour to drive over and to spend time there to do this bid that honestly, I don't even really want. We'll take it if it's along a route, but I don't want it. It's not important, And so it's just kind of that mentality of understanding that there's a cost to any type of investigation like that, And so anyways, long story short, I gave the estimate. We ended up getting the job, but it's understanding that work is different, and work isn't just work, and we can't just get work just to stay busy. It's got to be something that is worth the time of your business. Now, when you're first starting out, it's worth it because you need experience. You need just to get the reps, and you need to have money coming in, even if it's small, but you need something coming in to help you. Once you're established, then now you got to leave that old way of thinking and establish, okay, now how can I be efficient? And that's really more important.
I tell you what, the groups and the forums, the YouTube groups, the Facebook groups, they're so helpful to guys. Like I know when I started out, there was some of that. It wasn't what it is now. And like, I know when I started out, I knew nothing. I just watched a couple of videos and like, yeah, I can do this. And I think about, how long I was on some of those jobs and just doing a terrible job and wasting so much money and, not learning either proper technique or proper, skills, service-based skills. So, having a brick and mortar business is way different than having a service-based business. Right? So it's kind of encouraging to me to see Into the Flow and, whatever other groups that are out there, and guys can get that learning curve faster, like you're talking about. It's like, you can start off in point A, and that's the beginning. Most people start there unless, you have a lot of capital to invest in and have some kind of background. Most people are going to start at point A, and you got to go through those steps. And how do you go through those steps and have people like yourself and the rest of the Flowmies and whatever other, podcast is out there helping guys. That's huge. I wish they had that for window cleaning manufacturers.
That's interesting. That would probably be that would be a small group though.
That would be a small group, yeah.
And you're probably not going to want to help each other.
No, we want. No. It's like when you're fighting over route work in your local community, you're going to be nice, but you don't want to help somebody.
Well, although I was always nice to the route guys when I was new, only because I just knew I didn't know enough, when I first started, and I was just happy to work. And I thankfully I kept a good relationship. I was always friendly. I never like would go past business cards after they left or anything like that. But yeah, it's funny, we just
Did you ever have,
oh, go ahead.
have you ever had guys like try to steal your jobs and stuff?
Yeah, like outright,
Yeah.
like they would, if they saw my truck at a store, like they would wait, and then when I left, they'd come in and say, "How much is he charging? We'll charge less than that," because I had my own clients tell me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you left, this other guy came in, and we're like, "No, we like Gabe. We're sticking with him,"
Well,
But yeah, I did.
There was these two guys that were going around some of my areas, and they were just going and working on windows and doing windows and coming in and go to the person in the front. Oh, that's 20 or whatever it was. And they're like, "Are you with Ray?" And they're like, "Oh no, he I don't know. We've been doing this place for years. What are you talking about?" And so a lot of people were just giving money away, and they had no clue what was going on. And he just scammed them. And some people were like, "I'm not paying you for that. You're not with Ray. You're not. No, sorry. Should have said something." But yeah, it happened to about 3 or 4 of my customers in one of my areas. I was like, "That's."
Yeah, I've heard of that happen to a few people where guys kind of come in and they're not outright impersonating them, but they're acting as if they're part of the business, hoping that they'll do the work and get paid. I don't understand that in the least bit,
Yeah, I know.
But I'm just glad I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, me too.
So one of the things that you had mentioned was how important the mental state is whenever we're doing any type of entrepreneurial endeavor, whether it's starting a window cleaning business, starting a manufacturing business, or doing anything else. Kind of having your mental state in the right place is so key. Could you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and how it worked in your case?
Yeah, so I can give you an example of that right now. If you guys don't mind, I'm coming off camera, but I need to guess something. Because as we're talking, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I feel like there's something I forgot to do today. There's something important that I haven't done today. I've done so much already today. And I realized I haven't taken my daily drugs. Prescription drugs. Sorry, on film, taking drugs.
We have it documented, right? You're going down now.
Edit that out. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know what? As we're talking, I'm thinking there's something I forgot to do, and I forgot to take my daily pills. And it's just because the day was so insane that and that's why I don't keep them in my house, because this happens to me really often because I have so much going on and I kind of have like a little bit of ADD, So I will just leave the house and forget to take them. So I keep them in my bag all the time.
I almost think that in our industry, you have to have ADD of some sort to function. It's literally, probably 80% of the people I talk to have some degree of ADD. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure what I don't, but so many people in respected business owners have it, and they just, it's almost like a super strength.
Yeah. I think that comes, window cleaning is really a liberating industry. And it's kind of like a lifestyle thing. You can kind of be free from the 9 to 5 office or the factory line or whatever it is. And a lot of people who want that might have ADD, or they might be super creative, or they might be very individualistic. So it kind of breeds that kind of person in the industry, which is good, but also comes with some of
sure. But I think
with that
I think if you're in
that category.
Yeah. I think if you're have ADD or ADHD, you spend so much energy trying to conform to an environment, whether it's school, whether it's an office, or even a social setting. You're trying to meet these social norms that are not comfortable for you. And I think with window cleaning, especially if you're an owner or sole proprietor, you're by yourself most of the time. So you're allowed to kind of be yourself. And so like you said, I think being a window cleaner is freeing in that sense. So if they have those ADD tendencies, it's not like you're in an office and you're annoying your coworker or your boss is upset because you're working on this project when you're supposed to be working on this one. it's like you just work on whatever you want. And I think that's why it attracts so many who have that. But then at the same time, like you said, I think it sparks so much creativity in the industry, because they are free. And that's when these cool ideas come.
Right. So when winter comes, everybody has all the time, and then everybody's being creative online.
Yes, exactly. Creative.
Creative debates. So yeah, we'll talk about, how I view. And you know what? I think I'm going to change this chair, because every time I lean back, I hear the squeak, and it's driving me crazy.
Okay.
And I move around a lot when I talk. So I'm just going to go and see if I can find another chair real quick. So
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit, not as bad. No, it's not too high. So anyway, health and, taking care of your mental state. I feel like for me, this whole transition into being a manufacturer as opposed to a window cleaner has really challenged me in that area. And, every day is a new challenge, and dealing with fear, anxiety, depression, right? So those are all heavy things. And when the weight of a company is on you, or the weight of the resources of the family is on you, right? Especially as men, if you're a man and you're self-employed or you have a company, that really puts a burden on you, puts pressure on you. And trying to find ways to stay, to be healthy in your everyday lifestyle, is paramount. Like, one of the things I did this year was I started fishing again. Like, I used to love fishing, and I used to do a lot of it, but in the last 8 years, I've done very little. So now my thing is, every Monday morning, I wake up early, I go out on the creek or the river or whatever, spend a couple hours casting a rod and catching some fish. I must admit, this month I haven't done it, but all summer I did, right? And that was just like, my wife was like, well, why are you doing it on a Monday morning? I'm like, well, because it's setting the tone for the rest of the week. If I just wake up Monday morning, just go full bore, but so I set the tone Monday morning. And I can do that because, the way I arranged my lifestyle, right? And it probably won't be a forever thing, but that's one thing that was very helpful for me. Another thing was writing down some of my challenges and my fears and my anxieties, or some of the issues that are brewing. So like, what a practice I do now is I'll sit down with a pen and paper, and if I start feeling overwhelmed, and sometimes you don't even know what's overwhelming, it's just kind of hits you. Right? Yeah. If I feel overwhelmed, I'll sit down with a pen and paper, and on one side, I'll write down, as it's coming to me, everything that I feel overwhelmed about. Then on the other side is blank. And I'll sit there and in front of that paper, and you want to say meditate, you want to say pray, whatever, I do a little bit of both, right? And I say, okay, so what are some of, on this side, let me write down either strategy or some points about each thing. So sometimes I'll find that the things that are really stressing me out, I'm just procrastinating on. Like, if I would just take 5 minutes out of my day, instead of like just avoiding it, because that's one of my Achilles heels is avoiding things, right? If I just take 5 minutes, it's off the table now. It's gone. Yes. It's like magic proof, right? Sometimes it's okay. Well, there's a strategy for this thing, or why don't you talk to somebody else, or whatever it may be, and then just getting it from your head or from your heart, because everything kind of like, yes. It's all mixed together, right?
Yes.
Getting it onto paper and then being able to see it, visualize it, and you can come back and systematically, whether it takes you 5 minutes, an hour, or a week to process it, but that processing, your emotions, your fears, your anxieties, all the stuff that needs to be done, for me, has been very helpful. And I don't do it all the time. I do it when I start feeling. Yeah, I can recognize it myself.
Yeah. I totally get that. I'm a list person. Yeah. So like, if I have something that I need to get done today or in that week, I have a little small dry erase board. I write out my list of the things. Number one is the top priority, going down. And like just what you said, because it can be this jumble of things in my brain, and I'm like, well, should I do this? Should I do this? As soon as I put it down where I can see it, it's like I get calm, because my brain is no longer struggling to remember, oh, what am I supposed to do? I know something's important, but I'm forgetting what it is. Oh, and it's like now all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I don't have to do that because it's right there. So, and then I can choose and pick and choose. Sometimes I do the high priority thing right first. Sometimes it's just not the right time to do that. So I'll go to the next one. And I just I don't know about you, but the feeling of checking off that thing or writing the line through it, it just feels so good. So it's almost like you learn to reward yourself for accomplishing a task. And especially if it's like a really, like you said, a task you're trying to put off or you're procrastinating on, to check that off feels so good. There was one.
Go ahead.
Oh, good. Well, just what happened with me. But let me just tell mine real quick. We had a customer who was being billed incorrectly, and it was kind of complicated. And I was just like, man, first of all, I hated their bill, because we have to go through their billing thing. It's a corporation, and I hate it. It's just a really annoying system. But then there was, I guess, some work was changed on one of the jobs. There was we do several of their buildings. And so they were supposed to pay less. Well, we made the changes we thought, but I guess it wasn't right. And so he'd been emailing me, Gabe, you got to fix this. You got to fix this. And, we only do it quarterly. So okay, yeah, I'll get to it. And then I forget. And of course it doesn't come up until 3 months later, when now it's the cleaning. I always send the new invoice. Anyways, I finally was like, what am I doing? First of all, I've never been on this job, so I don't know anything about this job. Second, I don't do any of the billing. So why don't I just ask the office to deal with this? So I did. They got it handled in 20 minutes. Yeah. She made a call, talked to the guy, talked to the person who does the invoicing, made the change, put a credit on their account. It's done. Yeah. And it's like, I didn't even have anything to do it. All I said was, you guys handle it. And this huge thing was checked off that has been killing me for like the last 6 months.
Do you have any problems asking for help?
I don't, but I do have problems knowing which things I should ask for help for.
Oh, yeah.
So because that was a corporation, right? I'm dealing with the corporation. I'm dealing with the guy in charge. I felt I'm the owner. I should be the one to do that. Gotcha. And so I was dealing with that for 6 months, and it just hit me at that particular moment. Wait, I don't have to be why do I have to be the one to do this? I don't actually. Actually, I'm probably the least qualified to do this because I know nothing about it other than just my title. So once that hit, then I was like, you do this, and it was taken care of. And I just was like, I got to do that more often.
The art of delegating, Gabe.
Yes, exactly. So what was your situation?
I had a really hard email I had to send to some close people that I've been avoiding for a really long time. I wrote the email, I rewrote it, I deleted it, I went back, I reworded it forever. And then, so I did this thing, I'm the one night, and this has been going on for a while now, of me not sending out this email. And I did it in email form because I knew if I did it in person, I would have a hard time articulating what it really was I wanted to say, right? And so I was editing one of the versions of it, and I accidentally pressed send. So I sent it out. I was like, oh man, bro. And I know there's like a certain amount of time you can retrieve, and it wasn't within like seconds or something like that. And I was like, so I emailed them right away. I was like, I just sent you something that please don't read it, right? It was a rough draft. I want to talk to you about something. I know they read it.
Yeah, of course.
Right. But it forced me to deal with it because now I had to write the
you had to write the real one. Yeah.
That was only part of an unedited letter.
Right.
So they didn't say they read it, but I probably would have read it. So yeah.
If someone tells you, please don't read this email, that's the first thing you're going to do.
Right. So
if you would have said, hey, it's really important to read this email right now, they wouldn't have read it. Put it in the trash. Yeah.
I want to sell you some window cleaning products. They never would have looked at.
I have a proposal for an
Right.
investment opportunity for you in this
Exactly. We're
previous
looking for
email.
investors. Delete. Right? I was sort of thought of that. So I wound up working on it, and I got it just right. So to my wife, I'm like, "What do you think?" She's like, "Yeah, that's great." Sent it out, and when I sent it, it was just like a weight was lifted.
Yeah.
So it's been, avoiding it for so long because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I like to put stuff off on the back burner sometimes.
Well, and that's the danger. I interviewed a gentleman who wrote a book on procrastination. He did really, I mean, if you go back and listen to it, it's a really good episode. But procrastination, it adds so much more anxiety to an already anxious life, so if you're already prone to anxiety and you're putting off something, it's like whenever someone says, oh, hey, we got to talk later. That's, for someone with anxiety, that's like the worst thing you can say, because now they're never going to talk to you. They are going to ghost you. If you text them or call them or whatever, they're never going to be available because they're going to be avoiding that confrontation, and it may not even be anything bad. It just may be something you need to talk to them. So learning to face that fear of, okay, this is something, whether it's something I don't want to do because I'm nervous or anxious about it, or something I don't want to do because it's just a pain, it's annoying. Just getting through it is such a powerful tool, because you eliminate so much stress and anxiety from your life that is unnecessary, right? I mean, it's self-inflicted. When we put stuff off, it's self-inflicted. And learning that to just do it is just, and of course I say that because I still struggle with it. But
I think it's always it's part of who we are as people. At some level, you're always going to have some level of that. You might get more mastery as you deal with it more, but you're still going to deal with it. And like for me, one of my tendencies is when I get stressed out or I'm upset about something, and I have a hard time identifying emotions. My wife gets so mad at me because she's like, "How do you feel about that?" And I'm like, "Can you rephrase that and ask me what I think about it? Because I can tell you what I think about it, but how I feel about it, give me like an hour and I'll get back to you." And she's like, or a day, and she gets so mad. So
let me paint a picture first, and then I'll get back to you.
I'm going to go to the shop. I'm going to make a sculptor just about that. Maybe I'll make a trip. So one of the things for me is, not recognizing some of the emotions I'm going through as a business owner, as a father, as a husband, and just like shrouding it all in busyness or whatever I'm doing. I'm always thinking to the future. It's kind of my personality. I'm always thinking to the future, so I can get trapped in the future and lose sight of the present, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things I do is I'll stay up late and I'll just watch Netflix and I'll just drown out junk.
I've done that.
My wife's like, "Why don't you come?" Like, I'm going to bed by myself. What's going on? I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be up after this episode." But really what I'm doing is I love my wife. We have a great relationship. We've been together for 20 odd years, and there's nothing against her. She's beautiful. She's amazing. So if you're watching this, if you're watching this, I'm trying to build you up there. But so she's like, what's going on? And I'm not even aware of it. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just avoiding, all the emotions that I'm feeling right now, or all the anxiety, and then I could just shroud it, drown it in like 5 episodes, hour-long episodes, or whatever it is,
For real,
knowing yourself, as a business owner, as doing any kind of endeavor, you got to know yourself, because if you don't know yourself, you're going to struggle. You're going to get into drama. You're going to have hard relationships with your employees, with your customers, if you're not really self-aware. And so like, being self-aware is super important too.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And these are all things like, I've had a lot of things that I've done in my life, whether it's, in the arts or window cleaning or whatever, and different things. And I've just learned, because I've made so many mistakes and I messed so many things up. And and I don't want to, I'm 48 now. I don't want to be, 58 and be like, oh man.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned a little bit about self-talk, how that helps you deal with a lot of this kind of stress. How do you use self-talk as an aid?
So for me, I don't use a lot of it. I'm going to use my wife as an example. I'm sorry, babe. I hope you're not watching. So she
we'll tell her to turn it off right now. Stop.
Right now.
Go ahead for 3 minutes and then get back into the interview. All right, got it. You're safe.
No, she's great. She won't care. So she works full time, right? And she works for a hospital and she works from home and all this other kind of stuff. And she recently started going back to school. She's trying to get her business management degree. And she wants to move up within her hospital. And the only way to do that is to get that degree to go to the next level and be over whatever department she wants to be over. I don't know. It's all medical gibberish to me, so I don't know. But so that's what she's doing. But it's a lot because she's working and then she's taking care of the house. I mean, I help out, but I'm not trying to be chauvinistic. Because I do cook and I take care of stuff, but it's just kind of our natural roles, how they wound up in our family. And so she does a majority of the house stuff. So I got to make sure I'm on point and be like, oh, you know what? Maybe she's doing a little too much and I got to come alongside her and help her.
Sure.
But what she does, because she's in school and she's, we're past our youth and, going back to school at that age can be challenging.
Sure.
And then it could be, you don't lack that self-confidence, right? Mm-hmm. And she's brilliant. I mean, she gets all A's and she's on the D's list and all this other kind of stuff. And she stresses herself out because she's studying so hard. She's like, I'm not going to do good. Tracy, I'm like, listen, you are doing the wrong self-talk. What you need to do is you need to say what it is you want. I'm not talking about name it and claim it. That's a different world. But there's something about, speaking what you want and what you don't want and psyching yourself out before you even get started. And so one of the tricks I learned, I don't remember who I learned this from, but your body does the same exact chemical reaction when you are anxious and afraid as it does when you're excited. It's all those endorphins are running. It's almost the same exact thing. Your body doesn't know the difference. It's all running through your body. So you can easily, when you're in a stressful situation, trick your brain into thinking you're excited as opposed to anxious. So I said, try this before our test. Say, I am excited about this test because this, and this. And then just keep on saying it to yourself under your breath, whatever. But you got to kind of, the way it works is you kind of have to speak it out loud. And I've tried it before.
Absolutely. You have to do it out loud. I've done it before too. It has to be out because you can do it in your head, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It's the something about the physical verbalization of those thoughts. Now it clicks something in your brain where it transitions into, okay, now it's like almost I'm ready. Yeah, I believe it. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've had situations where public speaking or presenting something or whatever, and I was kind of like, nervous energy. And then I say, you know what, I'm really excited about this because this is going to do this and this and this. And then that nervous energy just kind of went. And it takes practice, and I help with my daughter with doing that too. And that's just a little trick. It doesn't work 100% of the time. Yeah. But it's a small little trick to help you kind of think properly.
Absolutely.
So I help my wife out with that. And I don't struggle with, negative thoughts about myself a lot. But when there's a series of events in my life that have gone south, I might start thinking, maybe it's you, Ray. Maybe this and this and this.
Yeah. And talking to so many window cleaners as I do, just with either ITF or just in general, sometimes people will just call me, because I'm pretty open. I mean, I talk to so many people, they'll call me, ask them just quick. Sometimes it's just a quick question about a business decision. Other times it's advice on starting the business and stuff. And I've noticed that the anxiety comes in different types. So there's a generalized anxiety where it's almost like, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I don't know what I'm doing. Is this a crazy idea? Is this, should I really do this? Blah, 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 and it's just more it's an anxiety of the unknown. It's like I'm going down a route I've not been before. And there's no guarantees on this route. And I'm used to my 9 to 5 where I go to work, I punch a clock, I get my paycheck, I have insurance, and now I'm going to a totally different world where the benefits could be like humongous, but the risks are also big. So there's that kind of general nervousness about a business decision. But then there's the irrational anxiety where I've talked to people who are freaking out about things, and I'm like, dude, you got this, man. You got it. You're making yourself freak out over something that you are way more than capable of achieving. And it could stem from their how they view themselves. Maybe they have low self-esteem issues, or maybe they've made bad decisions in the past, and those feelings are kind of the PTSD of those bad decisions are coming back. But it's the key is it's irrational. Like it's like anyone from the outside who has an objective viewpoint looks at that person and says, there should be no issue. You got this easy, and then generally that's the biggest payoff, because when the person does it and accomplishes it, like you said about those endorphins, boom, because they overcame, to them was this huge thing, but in real life, it's not,
It's funny.
And then,
when I started,
okay.
go ahead.
No, good. I'll just say
We're going to do that again. Go again.
The third one is actual depression, where they're dealing with a clinical, and sometimes you'll meet those people who, and I worry about them because, people who deal with depression already have, an anchor on them. And if sometimes they've got counseling, they're taking medication, they're addressing issues. Of course, as we know, there's no straight path to that. Some people find the pill that works for them right away, or the counseling or techniques that work right away. Others, they struggle with their whole life. And then they enter into a business where the unknowns are just multiplied. And now they're struggling with that, about how do I deal with both my clinical depression, but also the other anxiety that's, kind of adding on top of it. And that's, so it's like, I think the thing in our industry is that few people are willing to talk about those things, all three of those types of anxiety. It's kind of it's almost, if you talk about it, you're weak, or you talk about it, you're giving into it. And whereas the truth is if you just talk to someone who kind of understands, or even may not understand, but is just sympathetic, the verbalization of that can help you manage the effects and the symptoms of that so much easier than if you just keep it in and let it build up until it explodes.
I think the hardest thing in that area, I've never dealt with clinical depression. I mean, I think everybody has levels of depressions in their life, right? But I never had
but with clinical, with clinical, there's something wrong with your brain. Your brain is malfunctioning, so it's like you're going to be depressed whether things are going great in your life or bad. And that's the difference, as opposed to most of us, if we're in a situation where we're unsure, we're going to have anxiety. And if we're in that situation for a long period of time, that anxiety is going to compound, and it can be very strong, but
I think that, like, speaking to general depression and not clinical, like for me, and people that I've known who've dealt with it, one of the hardest things is finding somebody to speak to, somebody you trust, or even, like you said, there's fear behind it. We have a persona, and, we don't want to look, like you said, weak or, or whatever it may be. And we never go talk to anybody. So, I guess speaking to anybody who's dealing with that, take that step and find somebody to talk to, whether it's your wife or a coworker or a family member or somebody from the Flowmy channel or whatever. I think most of us are going to be supportive. I don't think anybody's going to be, and then confidentiality. I think most people will be like, yeah, this is between you and I.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the thing too is if you find if you're someone who deals with either anxiety, depression, whatever, and you help someone with it, that goes a long way to helping your own issues. It's kind of that little burst of feeling good that, hey, I helped someone else along the same path. And now, now it helps you to kind of continue going, and so when no one talks, everything just sits still. But when people, confide in people, form friendships, those types of things, then it just helps them to deal with the anxiety that just natural anxiety just comes with business that everyone feels, and it can alleviate a lot of the pressure, I think, that people put on themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really like the self-talk. Like I said, I've used it myself. I don't use it a lot either, but in some cases where I just need to kind of get myself over a hump, it works. But I think people with business, especially, when anxiety comes with business, that's a really good tool. So I hope some Flowmies look up a little more information on it and just try and do that.
Even
So
when
awesome.
when I started doing windows, and had the art gallery, and I was putting together art shows and talking before events and introducing artists and doing all this kind of like public stuff. But then I got a squeegee in my hand and I had to go bid a job. I was a nervous wreck. I come up with the business card, go to, a salon's, studio and be like, hey, can I give you a quote? And I'm like, stumbling over my words. And I think anytime we learn something new, you're going to have that. And then being able to put yourself in the right frame of mind, or even like writing down some of the talking points, right? Just like, you don't got to go in there and be like, hi, my name is Ray from such and such window cleaning. But you have that script and that you can use before you walk in or before you get into any situation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in the back of your head so you can, practice.
Well, and I think also there's something to be said with accepting the uncertainty as well. When I first started, I made no claims to be an expert. I when I started the business, I bought it from a friend. He gave me a whole 2 hours of training, and then I had a business. And in one of my older, podcasts that we did, I talked with Kevin, and we talk a little bit about the struggles I had in the beginning, because I just didn't have training, but the thing what I did was I was always upfront with my customers. I was always from the commercial ones, because I did buy some, so I didn't have to talk to them. But anytime I took a new one on, I was like, hey, I'm just starting out. Your windows are pretty easy, but if I run into problems, just know I'm going to figure it out. I'm learning.
That's
and
great.
Then especially with the residential too, I did the same thing. And that, I think, was actually the key to my success, because what happened is the first few residential customers were like telling everybody in that neighborhood, hey, you guys got to try this. There's a young man. He's just starting his business. He is so nice. He does a good job. Please hire him. Give him a chance. He needs some work. And that type of word of mouth just spread. And that's how I survived. I wouldn't have survived without that community and the word of mouth support. But if I had gone in there, oh yeah, I'm a window cleaner, I know what I'm doing, and then I would have the product, because I was not a good window cleaner when I started. Like you talk about the guy with the Windex, I wasn't that bad, but I was pretty bad. But then it would have just been, okay, I'm paying you for the product, and that's it. Whereas before, they were paying for the relationship that we were developing as they were helping out a new guy.
Yeah, that's cool. When I started out, I didn't have that mentality. It was just like, fake it till you make it. I didn't tell anyone new. I'm just going to go and do the job. And it's like, damn, it took me an hour to do 3 windows, or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I can see, I can visualize now some of the jobs I had. And looking back now, the owners were probably like, this guy's down. I didn't make the connection then. And now I look back and think about it like, that's the face they had. This guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had a lot of those, but again, that's why I told people, because I wanted to be upfront with them. They're paying me money. I wanted them to know what they were getting, and they'll learn it. Once I calmed down, I picked it up faster, and the quality went up. I met my customer service, but like you said, I think there is definitely in our industry either, like you said, a fake it or a make it, fake it till you make it, or almost like a bravado type. Because we are a male-dominated field, there are definitely, we're having more and more female window cleaners every year. They're joining the ranks, but for the most part, we're still very male-dominated, and the machismo still exists of, oh, I'm the best. And so, you see, and we all see it. We see it in the groups. You get these guys who've been cleaning for a year, and they're up there bragging and telling us how much money they're making, and I'm the best, and I'm, and that doesn't serve anybody. I mean, obviously they have a right to do that, and there's people who enjoy it, but as far as growth, from an individual and having a real business sense, coming to terms with it's modesty, right? Coming to terms with your limitations, that helps you to build on that, because then you know what you need to work on. If you feel you're already the best, what are you going to improve? But if you acknowledge that, hey, I have these are areas I need to, my polling, my fanning is great, but my polling, I need to work on that. Rather than avoiding polling, you do it more because you want to perfect that, and then once you perfect it, well, now there's no more anxiety towards that. It's done. Now you have this valuable tool that makes you a more effective window cleaner, and that goes through so many different aspects of business, not just windows.
One thing that gave me anxiety in my early years was, a lot of guys don't do this. I still do this. Call back my residential customers every season. So in the beginning of the spring, I'll call back my res customers, schedule them on. In the fall, I'll do the same. And I did some testing on that actually, and saw what happens when I don't call them back, and how much money or how much calls back I get versus calling all the customers. And I tell them ahead of time, listen, I'm going to call you in the fall or call you in the spring. And I did it the one season, I lost a lot of money. Yeah. I didn't do it the one season, and they didn't record. Right. Yeah. Right. I was like, we're not doing that again. We're going to call them back. Yeah. And so when I first started doing that alone was a little nerve-wracking. I already knew I was going to call them. All right.
It's not even a cold call. It's a warm call.
Yeah. It was like, I was just at your house last year. This is Ray, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, a little nervous. So sometimes, new things can be frightening. And sometimes you have to have a little bit of humility and, the ability to be humble, like you said.
Yeah. And that's where the value is, talking to experienced people, because if someone would have talked to you about that now and they say, hey, Ray, I got to make my calls for the spring and I'm a little nervous about it. Then you can say, hey, you know what? I used to be as well. And guess what? When I didn't do it, I lost a lot of money. So just do it. Suck it up. And then you can tell them all those things. You've already set it up, the call. It's not a cold call. You've already told them you were going to call. They already like you. They've used you, in the past. You're calling a friend, they're probably very anxious. You're offering a service they need, because they're looking at their windows like, man, I got to remember to call. I keep forgetting, so you're giving them and then once you can kind of talk them down, well, then that helps them, their anxiety. But again, if that guy never asks you and confides in you about that anxiety, he's just going to live with it and have to learn it the hard way, like what you did.
Well, I was talking to a local window cleaner, and he's been doing it for probably, I think, longer than I have. And I said, so do you call back your regular res customers? Like, no, I just get whatever comes. And I stay busy. I'm like, well, I said, but he had 2 part-timers. I'm like, what if they want more work and you can, be able to say, nah, I'm good. I said, okay. So I saw him again a year later. He goes, I started doing that, right? Calling people back. He goes, yeah, now my part-timers are full-timers. Yeah. I was like, cool. Yeah.
There you go.
He's been doing it longer than I have. So
Exactly. Yeah. Well, hey, Ray, we are out of time, man. That went super fast. I really appreciate your sharing that. I think it's an important, dealing with anxiety, with pressure, that type of thing is so important in our industry. And I just so happy that you were so open to talk about that. And I know it's going to help a lot of people. Cool. But in the meantime, so you got with Aeria Pro, just closing out the podcast, you've got the big battle cats, your flag, I guess you call it a flagship product right now, right? Yeah. And get your tiger fins. And so anything else that you guys kind of got in the works that you want to?
So we have the battle cat, and it comes in 3 sizes. We have the tiger fins and ultimate scrubber, which is really meant for cutouts and stuff.
Also, like the tip for the towels. I love that. That's such a cool invention. Because you know what? I thought about, this is again, the artist, you did it, and I thought it and never did anything about it. Because what I would do actually is put the little hair things on the rag, so around the top. But it would pop off or it would break eventually. But I never thought, if there's a little bit of rubber on the end, the rag's not going nowhere.
That little pull top is great. It's so cheap and inexpensive, and it's easy to use.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So we have those products, and then next year we have a few more we're gonna bring out. I'm really hoping to bring 2 prototypes to the IWCA convention.
Sweet.
So I'm hoping that everything works out.
Me too.
for some two new products. So that'd be awesome. We'll see what
well, I can't wait to see them. Thank you so much for all your innovations there. And also, like I said, for sharing your time with us. And thank you, Flowmies. Check out aereapro.com. See all their
Aeria
products.
Pro Shop.
Oh, aereaproshop.com. Thanks for catching that. And you guys have a great week. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, flow on.